just want to tell you that this is informal. Relax, have your drinks, ask questions, and be entertained and be engaged. And let me tell you what that agenda will look like. So I will do a little bit of an introduction, and if you allow me, I would also explain to you a little bit about our community. Then Yesin is going to tell us a little bit about carbon neutrality, among other things, because he has quite a new number of topics that he would want to share with you. And then we, of course, go for the open web and why NEAR. And this is an exciting time for us. I would love for all of you to really, engage as much as possible and ask questions afterwards. We will open the session for questions, but do get your wine, do get your drinks, and enjoy. Now, if I can just ask you from these three things, I would love for you to know what the community is, and after I finish with my talk, you will understand the amazing opportunities in community and what the NEAR community is about. After Yesin's talk, I hope that you see how wonderful the Web3 is shaping the world and making it a better place in the end. It's gonna be. And then the third one is you will definitely understand why we are all so excited about NEAR. This is an amazing journey, and we hope that all of you become part of this as well. So let's get started. The NEAR community. So I am Grace, and I am the head of community. And the reason why I love this particular area and domain is because it really puts me in contact with the entire NEAR ecosystem. And here, what is really the driver of all this is that we're trying to build and create community-driven economies. And this is something very interesting. Community-driven economies that are placed around applications in NEAR. And the way that we do this is creating a safe place for people to come in. God, it's hot in here. It's creating a safe place for people to come in. And that means that the core contributors can learn, explore, take risks, and this is one that I really want to emphasize. They can take risks, they can be inspired, and feel empowered to develop the NEAR ecosystem and the way that it's going into creating the Web3 world. It actually the community becomes a channel or a vehicle that facilitates the mass adoption of Web3. And this is where the connection really becomes very, very strong. In our communities, we are structured with guilds, by guilds. And guilds are this unstoppable engine, this force that creates value for the ecosystem. They are sub-communities, so they are little communities of people that have an idea, or they want to incubate ideas or express ideas, but more importantly, they are part of bootstrapping the applications that are built on NEAR. And that goes in many different directions. But one area that it's clear is that they bring a skill set that allows these applications in NEAR to succeed. And that means helping them from the beginning, from the early stage, being part of that support system for them in terms of being able to assist them with users, testing their products, giving feedback, marketing their product, promoting their community, being part of an engaging force for them. And lastly, the NEAR My City Global Meetups. It's a way that we want to also extend ourselves and decentralize a lot of this sort of spirit to empower leaders, local leaders, to organize meetups like this one. So with that, I just wanted to give you just a brief overview, and just wanted to say, get involved, and if this goes the way that I want it, you will talk to me and ask me more about the community, because I will be very excited to tell you all the opportunities we have here. Thank you. And now, Yessin.
Hello, I'm Yesin. I'm taking care of finance, legal and operational matters at NEAR Foundation. And as a matter of introduction, I think about half of the people in the room know me already, so I'll keep it very short. I'm a bank auditor by training. That was opposite to Christian, who's also in the room, who said, don't do it. But it was a great learning experience as a bank auditor. And then I was into private equity for about 10 years. I really grew up here in the region in Zurich. And then I got into crypto, like many other people, first getting into Bitcoin, like a first generation blockchain protocol, decentralized digital money, very exciting. And then discovering that there's Ethereum, which is a programmable sort of version of Bitcoin. And then looking now at the third generation blockchain protocol, which is NEAR. I'd like to explain why I think that we have this progression. And eventually Ethereum will get there too with Ethereum 2.0, we hope. Someday. Well, with NEAR, what I really like as a user, it is very simple to use and very fast to use. It's like a 1 second block time, and I think most of you have the experience of gotten a wallet, did some transaction. It's very approachable and it's very fast. At the same time, it's secure. And above that, I like the carbon neutrality element. It's not a secret. I'm all about that topic because I think when we have a climate problem and we want to apply technology to problems, and I think blockchain technology can solve a lot of challenges in the by decentralizing matters and in various aspects. And when we look at the climate problem, I think it's not a solution that we just do less of everything to solve it, because we as human beings, we naturally want more. We want more comfort, we want more freedom, we want to achieve. We want to have a bigger house, we want to drive a more comfortable car, etc. It's just in our nature. And yes, we probably can be a bit more modest, but we can maybe apply technology to still make our lives better while saving the climate, right? And so I use a technology which was a great proof of concept, Bitcoin, and continue to use that when it's becoming part of the problem, not of the solution. And so we have newer technologies, and so let's apply this. And so in this context, I'd like to briefly explain the difference between proof of work and proof of stake. And so the security taken with Bitcoin is proof of work, and that means the miners, they're listening to all the transactions. Everyone hears all the transactions coming through that are happening. And only one miner can decide what's the next block, right? So that's a lot of power. Decide what's the new block to be put into the blockchain by recording all the transactions. And with Bitcoin, that's being done by extending a certain amount of energy, a certain amount of work to solve a riddle. And that's being done by many iterations. And the more iterations you do, the better the chances are that you get to insert a block and get the block reward, right? And so everyone is fighting to get that next block. And with proof of stake, the validators put up a stake, and then there's by an algorithm, one validator is chosen more by chance who can insert the block. And in case he tries to cheat, he loses his stake. And by that you don't need all this computation, this proof of work. And that means that creates quite a huge difference, because for a Bitcoin transaction, the estimate is that it creates as much CO2 as 2/3 of an oil barrel burned, right? And so if you send a test transaction to an exchange, then you send your funds and the exchange reshuffles your funds, 3 transactions, 2 barrels of oil just blasted to the atmosphere. And NEAR is by a magnitude of 1 million or more efficient. And so it gives us the comfort of a simple, secure, scalable blockchain, and at the same time doesn't create this climate problem, right? So that's why I like NEAR. Well, beyond that, it has a very approachable and modest team. That's what really keeps me NEAR as well. So it's great to have Ilya here, and I think we live the community. You can feel like everyone has a say, everyone can introduce his idea, to improve the protocol, to improve the experience of the community, to improve the user experience on various levels, be it as even a core contributor in some way, having a job, or being part of a guild, or coming to this meetup and exchanging ideas. We are very open and approachable blockchain. So then how to engage with NEAR? So I think if you don't have a wallet yet, get one. Get a few tokens just to try it out. Try the apps and interact with it. And whatever you do is on the blockchain forever. Just that idea is quite neat. But there are more and more applications popping up. So the protocol is just a bit more than a year on mainnet, basically. At the beginning we had just a couple of applications, but now it's really going exponentially, and I'm losing the oversight of what's being built on NEAR. You can contribute. We have about 40 job openings, so you can browse near.org/careers and see how you want to contribute, maybe directly. You can engage within the community. You can even create a guild around a topic where you want to interact with NEAR. You can join any of the many projects. You can create a project. I think even in this room we have about 10 new projects that intend to build on NEAR. It's like medical device tracking. We have securities, stock certificates on NEAR. We have a gambling platform on NEAR over there. We have a international payment application on NEAR. If I'm looking into the room, so that's a lot of things happening. And so I'll then there is one very unfortunate case which I'd like to talk about, and that's particularly here in Zurich, and it's very, very awkward because that's rarely happening in Zurich, something like that. But there was an armed robbery just a few days ago on a NEAR community member, where two guys entered an apartment of that person and threatened with a weapon to provide access to a Binance account. And so that was just giving access to a phone, access to a Binance account, and all the crypto that was on that Binance account was wiped at once, right? And that's very unfortunate. Have never heard that this is like a thing in crypto. It's like called the $5 wrench attack, right? You have like all the security of the blockchain, and then it just takes like a wrench to get your way into the crypto of someone. And so, because it's in Zurich, I want to let you know that there's something is out there. Police is on it, and just be careful. And there's a lot of things you can do. It's basically your phone is not good. It's not a good security to your assets, right? Get a hardware wallet, but even that, right? Keep the seed, the recovery seed in a safe. Have maybe multi-sig set up for large amounts, or stake your tokens, because the tokens that were staked couldn't be stolen away. They are on staking over 2 days, and then there are still measures possible to secure the funds before they're gone. I mean, none of these measures are completely perfect to secure yourself, but like be sensitive to that, read into the topic, make sure that you're not bunkering while you're empowered through blockchain. You're not bunkering all the blockchain accessible at home, because somebody could really threaten you. And yeah, think about your personal security in general. Yes, there's a question.
Don't tell people you have your own crypto.
Yeah, don't brag about it, right? It's difficult when you engage, but don't brag about it. Don't like tweet how you got into crypto, which exchanges you use, because this was a very dedicated attack. They knew what they were looking for. They went in. 4 minutes later, they were out again, because they knew exactly which exchange, what they needed to do it, and they were gone with it. And yeah, so it's obviously a very devastating experience, and for myself as well, I was very shocked. So then to a more pleasant element will be, I think, the networking experience of you in the room. And so that's why I want to cut my presentation short at this stage, so you have more room to mingle and get to know each other and learn all what everyone is working on. And so thank you very much for coming, and I'd like to also thank Ilya for coming to Zurich. like to introduce him up to stage, and yeah, welcome, Ilya.
Thanks, Yessin.
So it's an
As usual,
it's a
quick technical break.
yeah.
The screen share.
Yeah, and it's
Let me do this first.
okay.
Netflix and chill.
I wish. More like 5 windows of work.
Are you on a network already?
I am.
The yeah.
Which
On
one?
technology. Oh, okay. Here, so it's in lab. Yeah, that one. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. And then the code.
At some point, technology will just work, but until that day. Well, thanks for coming. I mean, this is amazing turnout. At a pretty short notice, so I'm excited to be here. Excited to kind of share some of the stuff that we're working on and kind of how I see the world coming together. And yeah, thanks to Grace and Yessin for organizing and kind of getting all this. I'll try to go fast because yeah, I don't want all of you to just stand here and kind of listen to me talk. And we can all chat and have drinks afterwards. So kind of the thing I want to talk about the most is actually what we're trying to build, because kind of there's a lot of like blockchain talk, there's a lot of obviously kind of talk about investing in blockchain and trading and doing all those things, but we kind of forget a lot of times why this technology has started and where we actually going with them. And kind of Bitcoin started with this idea that money should belong to the kind of people who are owning and using them, not to the banks or kind of some authorities. That was, you know, kind of what was literally in Genesis block, the kind of this news about kind of collapse of banking system. And so expanding beyond that, right, expanding away just from money, like the whole world, you know, right now is kind of obviously has financial assets and various other assets. It has data, but more importantly, it has this idea of governance, right? It's this idea that we as people are able to kind of participate and contribute and also receive the value from the communities, from the kind of governments, from platforms, and from kind of products that we use. And so, like this idea of open web world is this idea where people are in control of this, not some set of shareholders, not the people who are kind of started it, but the people who are actually using it, or active, or participants, and they have control of their assets, data, and the governance. And so, kind of how we see this evolving, right, is actually on pillar of 3 things, right? One of them is obviously finance, right? Finance is the motivator, and if you know kind of how open source evolved, kind of it started with a lot of kind of people who believed in open source, but then it actually didn't go anywhere until big companies started investing in it and actually paying people to build open source applications. And so kind of finances are really important. They're driving the economy, they're driving the kind of everyone. But at the same time, you want to kind of offset it with communities and with creators, right? And so we see this as kind of this triangle of creators who are able to expose their passion, who are able to earn from this, and NFTs are a way to do it, right, is a medium, but there's other mediums as well. And there's communities who are able to govern all this, who are able to kind of create the value and capture it, and this is where kind of, launching tokens, creating DAOs, all of this infrastructure that a lot of people are working on is facilitating. So just kind of to mention a few of the pieces that are already there on NEAR. So this is some of the financial components, right, from exchanges to kind of lending protocols, liquid staking. So, and like this is just, few highlights. There's more being built. There's more launching on Aurora. So there's like a ton of stuff happening. Similar on creator side, right, there's like a couple big marketplaces, but even more importantly, there's a ton of communities which are now either helping, onboarding, or themselves are kind of collective of creators who are creating something new, offering it to the people, pretty much generating revenue, and then going and educating actually more people to come into the space. And like why NFTs are such a fundamental change, for example, from all of the existing kind of, there's property rights, there is, piece of art, there's royalties, all the stuff exists in the regular world, but most of the stuff is super hard to use for a regular individual creator, right? Like usually we need a record label company, we need a huge lawyer firm that defends this legal label company because somebody's violating this legal rights, etc. And here we have kind of just a set of rules that anybody can use, right? This kind of marketplaces, there's people who've never kind of wrote code or done any legal work or anything can go in, kind of issue their own pieces of art, music, video, etc. Start offering it, start receiving kind of future revenue from it being resold and appreciating value. And the other side is DAOs, right? DAOs, and especially in Switzerland, is actually becoming a more important topic. But overall, right, from my perspective, this is where kind of new organizational designs are moving toward DAOs, just because it gives you so much flexibility on how to structure decision making, on how to structure kind of how you want to manage your assets, how you want to invest, how you want to make decisions. And in a way, like there's a lot of people who try to build kind of social networks in crypto, and they try to kind of take Facebook or take Twitter and just do exactly the same thing, and that's not how it works. Because crypto is this idea of like how do you coordinate people and how do you manage money, first and foremost, from my perspective, DAOs are the social of the kind of Web3 of Open Web. And so we have a pretty cool thing called the Astra DAO, that is pretty much allows you to create really easily your own kind of collective. You're able to then, receive money, manage money, make investment decisions, create subgroups that have like specific responsibilities, etc. And there's work being done in ecosystem to make it like also legally protected, register, brand in Switzerland and some other entities in other countries. And so this really allows kind of to open up, like where before you would need to go and like set up a very complicated, bylaws and then have all those things. You can now expose a lot of this in code and then open up who can join it and create really interesting structures. So overall, right, NEAR ecosystem, like there's a lot of stuff going on. This is actually a pretty old chart, but just kind of to show you the diversity is there's everything from finance to kind of infrastructure, but more importantly, there's a lot of different communities, and Yessin mentioned guilds, which are pretty much kind of filling in different functions, similarly how you would have, ministries or kind of different departments in a big company, right, that are serving, helping with user experience or helping with legal or helping with kind of go-to-market to specific products. And so in a way, like on a higher level, this open web idea is like kind of building one big company that is just open and anybody can join, right? And so I worked previously at Google, where you have this huge company, 100,000 plus people, and you have a lot of those departments and you have a lot of those things, and internally it's actually really open. You can build on top of any of the kind of other people's infrastructure or tools, you can communicate with everyone, but it's closed from outside, right? You can, and it's actually like kind of almost by design, like the people internally don't want to talk with people who are outside of Google. And so this leads to kind of a lot of times people just building for themselves, right? Like a lot of products you see from Google, if they are designed for people who work at Google, they work really well. And if they're designed for somebody else, like social networks they were trying to do, they didn't work at all. And that's kind of the result of this. And so the idea here is kind of use the same principles of openness, but open it up, right? To actually have everyone participating and everyone being able to join. And so our goal is to have 1 billion people actually using this and being active participants on NEAR in 5 years. And this is a very audacious goal because we're still pretty far from that as a space, actually. Kind of how do we get there? Well, so there is a this is my mind map of a lot of kind of pieces that need to come together for this to happen. And I don't want to go super deep into this, but if you want to learn about this, hit me up later. But the thing is, like, we already have a set of primitives that are working right now. And like, I'll not go over all of them, but the idea is like you have now things that pretty much you did not have before that enable new types of experiences, right? And like, I just want to mention, if you're not familiar with zero knowledge proofs, it's pretty much magic. It's ability to prove something to somebody else without actually revealing them anything, except like the kind of the logic of what you were trying to do. But you don't need to tell them what inputs you had and what outputs you had. And you can do a lot of magical things. For example, you can send money without revealing who you sent it to and from whom. But you can also prove, for example, that this person never had cancer, for example, in their medical history, or this person has GPA above some score without revealing the full transcript. So you can start proving a lot of information that needs to be private to other people. And so this is enabled by kind of innovations in technology that have been launching over the past year and a half, right? And like scalable blockchains like NEAR, there's a lot of kind of work on like indexing, querying, like the graph, storage chain like Filecoin. We have oracles like Chainlink and Flux, and then we have obviously ways to get in and out into the system like exchanges. And obviously want to mention like kind of NEAR started with this idea that you cannot have one computer to process all of the world's transactions. And this is what kind of, in a way, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and most of the other networks are assuming. And this is by design because you want to make sure that everybody validates every single transaction that happens through the network. And NEAR started with the idea kind of that we need to scale beyond that, right? We'll need to scale kind of with demand. And if we're going to get to 1 billion people, we will need more than one computer processing things. And so we actually launched the shards on November 15th. This is a little bit older slide. Now, like NEAR actually runs with 4 shards, and we can keep changing this number based on demand. And the thing is, like, it didn't change at all for the users or developers. Like the idea of kind of designing it similarly, how do you don't know how many computers actually running behind Google.com or behind Amazon.com. There's actually lots of servers, right? They add more servers when there's more demand. Like, you don't need as a user to ever know about that. Similar idea, NEAR, done. Also, more importantly, if you're a developer or entrepreneur, NEAR has actually most versatile ecosystem because they actually support pretty much every single thing that you want to build on, right? If you coming from Ethereum and been already building in Solidity, we have Aurora where you can write stuff. If you've been into Web3, into Polkadot, and been building kind of parachains, we have Octopus Network where you connect your parachain, and it's going to cost you like probably like 10,000 times cheaper than working with getting into Slot and Polkadot. And we obviously have kind of more native support for TypeScript and Rust, which are pretty kind of, TypeScript is a super common language. There's millions of people who actually know how to write it. And Rust is the most loved language, which is gaining popularity. So one of the fundamental things, though, that changed, right, is this idea of ownership economy. And I kind of want to emphasize this because, like, the open web on its own is not possible without this economic incentives, right? I mentioned kind of finance and DeFi and open finance as a driver, but kind of underneath the core concept is that you can give out pretty much ownership in the platform, in the future value of the platform early on to attract users, to create network effects, to bootstrap your kind of ecosystem. And this is pretty much extremely powerful tool. And from what I see now, every single entrepreneur, especially in consumer, is switching to use blockchain as part of kind of their tool set for building consumer applications. This is already happening. Like 3 of my friends coming from Google, for example, who started a company last 3 months, all of them are using crypto. Like, it's a startup doing something with crypto, right? And this is because they see that this is the only way to bootstrap and really quickly grow their ecosystem, and the only way actually to kind of be more like innovative in a way against some of the like other tech companies that they exist right now. And we obviously see that with Facebook kind of moving in that direction as well, because they also realize that. So I'm going to skip all this. If you want to learn more, there's a cool stuff. I just want to mention something super interesting because this is kind of when we were starting NEAR, we actually started looking at kind of in blockchain to build a crowdsourcing platform. Crowdsourcing platform is this idea that you want to collect data kind of for machine learning, for other tasks, and you want people to kind of fill in this data for you. And we were doing it because I'm coming from a machine learning background, and we were doing some AI problems, and we saw a problem literally just paying people around the world, right? Like paying from US to China, to Cuba, to Russia, to Ukraine is complicated. And so we actually had a community member build this crowdsourcing platform on NEAR. It launched in April, and it actually has the biggest, like this is also outdated, has the biggest data set, I think ever, as far as I know, collected of actual human labeled data by now. And I know some of the ecosystem also, they're trying to expand this to become a service. But the more interesting part is, because it's open, because it's available everywhere in the world, we had people during Corona who were not able to have a working on this, being able to receive a salary and pretty much survive almost during this time because this platform exists, right? So kind of, it's not like crypto is not just kind of this like ability, you know, to invest or this kind of pipe dream of open web. It's actually something that's here already helping people, and it's really delivering value. And from this perspective, kind of things like this, right, the actual business applications, like while I was at Google, I was spending millions of dollars on this kind of work, which was lower quality than what they're getting here, and way slower. Like it took us, this took from May to I think August, 1 million, it took us 3 years to collect 1 million data samples while at Google, and we spent $1 million. So like this already is actually a business application that is available, that runs, and you can pretty much build things like this, and you can use token economics to incentivize people to join early on and be like global from day one. So just to mention kind of at the end, we announced a 800 million kind of ecosystem fund. There's a lot of opportunity to build kind of an ecosystem. There's grants, which you can apply at the grants. There's DeFi, kind of for DeFi applications. We're actually launching a thing called regional kind of hubs, which are specifically helping projects in region, and obviously Switzerland kind of having foundation here, like we just have a direct connect. And then obviously there's a lot of venture funds and kind of support and accelerators that are happening here. And just as a last note, keep learning. This space is moving super fast. There's so much stuff going on. There's NEAR Week if you want to follow NEAR News, NEAR University if you want to get kind of education on how to build, on becoming an instructor. They're launching more programs as well, kind of that are not technical. There's analyst, for example, program as well. And we have blog and a lot of other content on YouTube, for example, where you can watch and learn. Thank you, and let's get to drinking. Yeah, I mean, if you have questions, I'm here. Or drinking seems like a better option.
I guess it's drinks.